Members, good afternoon. It's the appointed time and we have a quorum. Thank you for attending this meeting of the panel on development. Agenda item 1, information papers issued since last meeting. The information papers issued since the last meeting are set out on the agenda. Agenda item 2, schedule of meetings for the remainder of the 2025 session. The proposed schedule of meetings for the remainder of the 2025 session is tabled for members' reference. Please note that as a general practice, this panel holds its regular meetings on the fourth Tuesday of each month at 2:30 p.m., like today. As for October, as the last council meeting before the prorogation of LegCo is scheduled for the 22nd of October, it is proposed that the regular meeting in October for this panel be pushed forward to Monday, the 13th of October at 8:30 a.m. The clerk will reserve 2 meeting sessions for each regular meeting. Of course, if there are more agenda items, we may lengthen the meeting. Do members have any views on the meeting arrangement? For many other panels as well, their meetings in October are pushed forward. So if you don't have any particular views on this, this is what we're going to do for the schedule. Agenda item 3, items for discussion at the next meeting. Please refer to LC paper CB bracket 1690/2025 bracket 01 and bracket 02. They are the list of outstanding items for discussion and the list of follow-up actions. The next regular meeting will be held at 2:30 p.m. on the 27th of May this year. The government proposes that we discuss the following 3 items. 1. PWP Item Number 3200GK Joint User Complex at Chensha Wan Road, Shemshui Po. 2. Long-term flood and shoreline management strategies to cope with climate change. And 3. Annual report on implementation progress of heritage conservation initiatives. Do members have any views on these 3 discussion items? All right. Next agenda item, item 4, preliminary development proposal of sites around Hung Hom Station and waterfront areas. Let's welcome the government officials to join us. Members who would like to speak, please press the request to speak button. Many members are waiting to speak. We have 10 of them waiting to speak. Welcome. Attending this item, we have Ms. Doris Ho, Permanent Secretary for Development, and her colleagues. We also have representatives from the MTRC. Let me first read out the names of the members. They will speak in the following sequence. Mr. Ambrose Lam, Mr. Andrew Lam, Vice Chair, Mr. Edward Lau, Mr. Kenneth Lau, Mr. Michael Tin, Ms. Chen Yut-ming, Dr. Wendy Hong, Mr. Benson Luk, Mr. Perry Yu, Mr. Gary Zhang, Mrs. Regina Ip, and Mr. Frankie Yik, 12 members. I'll first invite the government representative to walk us through the papers. There is a PowerPoint presentation. Ms. Doris Ho, Permanent Secretary, please. Thank you, Chairman. As mentioned by the Chairman, we'd like to make use of this opportunity to brief members on the preliminary development proposal of sites around Hung Hom Station and waterfront areas. We have some initial land use proposals. Apart from the Development Bureau, we also have representatives from the MTRC today because the MTRC helped us conduct the land use study. Let me first talk about this site. You may be familiar with it. It spans across Hung Hom Station, the Hong Kong Coliseum, as well as the waterfront areas. It is a prime location. And after the commissioning of the Israel Line cross-harbor extension, it has become an important interchange, and the site is conveniently served by transportation. It occupies an area of 14 hectares of land spanning across Hung Hom Station as well as the waterfront areas, and it covers 14 hectares of water body as well. There are many challenges if we are to develop this piece of land, because there are underway rail tracks, but there are also a lot of development potentials to this site. We have been working with the MTRC and we've been thinking about how we can make good use of this site so that we can create a new harborfront landmark in Hung Hom. Our land use proposal revolves around 4 major themes. First, we want to enhance commuting experience for the public. There are many transport facilities around the Hung Hom Station, including the cross-harbor bus interchange station. There is also a public transport interchange with many bus routes and services. There are also facilities for other public transports. We would like to consolidate the bus stops near the Hung Hom Station as well as the public transport interchange. Apart from consolidating the facilities, we'd like to enhance and improve the waiting environment for passengers. This land released, we will make use of it for creating more public spaces with greenery. Also, we think we should improve the pedestrian connectivity so that we can encourage members of the public as well as tourists to visit Hung Hom. We will renovate a part of the area. There is a covered bridge that connects the Hung Hom Station and the Hong Kong Coliseum now, but it is a rather old bridge, so we will renovate it. We will also renovate the 2 footbridges linking the Hung Hom Station as well as the Hong Kong Polytechnic University to improve the connectivity. Apart from improving pedestrian connections, we are proposing 3 new pedestrian connections. We'd like to enhance the connectivity between Tsim Sha Tsui East and the waterfront area. Also, we want to have a footbridge connecting the Hung Hom inland areas and the waterfront area. Also, between the Hong Kong Coliseum and the Hung Hom Station, we want to introduce a new elevated footbridge to improve the connectivity. Well, we're going to create a new landmark, and we're going to brief members on some of our new thoughts. In the harborfront area, there is a KCRC freight yard. It is a former pier site, and we propose constructing low-rise, low-density buildings with dining and entertainment facilities. It is a waterfront area, and we want to make use of the water body there. We propose a 50-story high integrated and mixed-use building. While the lower floors will be used for residential purpose, we want to make use of the uppermost floors so that people can enjoy the scenery there. We also want to introduce exciting entertainment facilities such as skywalk to introduce a different experience to tourists so that they can appreciate the Victoria Harbour from a new angle. We will make use of 10 hectares of the water body on the site. We want to create a yacht berthing facility with 200 berthing spaces. We also want to introduce water-based leisure elements there. In addition, to make good use of this site, we will make use of 200,000 square meters of GFA, 40% for residential use, 60% for hotels, and the rest for retail and dining services. We hope to add vibrancy and energy to Hung Hom. These are the 4 major themes. I'll now invite my colleague Christine to brief you on the details of the proposal. Thank you, Ms. Doris Ho. You're very familiar with the proposal. Your opening remarks have probably covered all the contents of your PowerPoint presentation, so please be brief in your PowerPoint presentation so that we have enough time for members to raise questions. Thank you, Chairman. The Hung Hom Station was used as a freight yard, so we weren't able to make good use of the site as the freight yard was relocated, and with the commissioning of the Israel Line extension session, the site is now conveniently served by transportation. As mentioned, it covers an area of 24 hectares. The part in the middle is the Hong Kong Coliseum, and the proposal does not involve any modification to the Hong Kong Coliseum, so the Coliseum will not be affected in terms of its operation. The Hung Hom Station concourse, as well as railway tracks, will also not be affected. Underground, there are many railway facilities. Underneath Hung Hom Station, we have the platforms, of course, and we also have the stabling facilities for trains running the Tuen Ma line, and above Salisbury Road, we have some ventilation facilities. And here, there are open-air railway tracks as well as other facilities. They include the rail tracks used by trains serving the Tuen Ma line. There are also the emergency exits as well as ventilation building. There are also underground utility pipes here. As mentioned, there are 4 major themes. First is to enhance commuting experience for the public. There are different public transport facilities, including facilities for cross-harbour buses, as well as cross-district buses and taxis and so on. And all these facilities are scattered on the site. So oftentimes passengers have to cross the roads to get to the facilities, and there are no shelters in the waiting area. We are planning to develop a commercial residential development here. We're going to develop the interchange here. We have the Cross-Harbour Tunnel Bus interchange. For those who are not familiar with where the bus stops are, they may have to spend some time on looking for the right bus stops. And you may have to take the stairs if you want to take the cross-harbour buses. Our proposal is that at the former Cross-Harbour Tunnel Toll Plaza, we will build a platform spanning an area of 7,000 square meters, and the public transport interchange will move 1 level up. Above the platform, there will be 2 hotels as well as commercial buildings, so that there are more accommodation options for tourists, and there will also be more dining options for people going to the Coliseum.
With the new arrangement, They will separate pedestrians from the transport. People can go to the bus interchange or the public transport interchange, and they can access transport in any weather condition. There will be barrier-free facilities as well. We will also improve the waiting area. On this floor, the bus interchange, there will be waiting rooms with air conditioning. We will also explore similar arrangements for the new interchange. Once we move the open air PTI, we will be able to free up space for us to use the space as open space with greenery. And then Hung Hom Station will be on a par with other world-class stations. It will be a gathering spot. There will be a station plaza for travelers. There will also be rain shelters with seats so that people will have an easier time waiting for their transport. Now in Hung Hom, there are places for coaches. We propose moving the parking spaces to the east of Hung Hom Station. This change will mean that around the Hong Kong Coliseum, we will be able to have a public open space, and you can have different events in that open space. Now, walkability or pedestrian connectivity. I want to start from the west. You start from Hung Hom Station and you go to Polytechnic University or Tsim Sha Tsui East. You have 2 pedestrian footbridges, and we can improve those footbridges. We will refurbish and widen the footbridges. There will be greenery to improve the experience of people walking in the area. From Hung Hom Station, if you want to go to Hong Kong Coliseum, you will take this pathway, but this is an old design built many years ago. So we propose improving the 700-meter walkway. There will also be skylights so that you can have greater vibrancy in the area. Now, from Hung Hom Station to Hong Kong Coliseum, people now have to cross the street, but we want to make accessing the area easier in any weather condition. So we propose building a footbridge linking up Hong Kong Coliseum and Hung Hom Station. There will be a third option. We propose building an elevated covered walkway from Hung Hom Station to the waterfront area, and that will also reach Hong Kong Coliseum. Now let's look at the new pedestrian link. This elevated covered walkway will be 500 meters long. For 200 meters, it will be a footbridge, and then for the remaining 300 meters, they will be within this integrated retail commercial area. So from Hung Hom Station, it will be a 10-minute walk before you reach the waterfront area. Now, on accessibility of the waterfront area, you can already access the waterfront area from Tsim Sha Tsui East, but you have to take the footbridge. So our proposal is to build a pedestrian boardwalk along the waterfront. You can link up the Tsim Sha Tsui waterfront and the Hung Hom waterfront. So those are our proposals about walkability. So in the future, there will be a direct link between Tsim Sha Tsui East and Hung Hom. And people will be walking right by the sea. Now our third goal is to inject more vibrancy or enliven the waterfront area. There will be a water leisure zone. There's a little bay to the east with breakwaters. That area will be shielded from adverse weather. So this will be a quiet water body, and you can build structures closer to the water. So for that area, we propose a U-shaped retail cluster. In the middle of the water body, we have pontoons in mind. We will build a plaza, and you can have different events such as family-friendly water sports, yoga on sport, and people can even hold a wedding on the platform. To the south, of the old pier, we propose setting aside the space for people where people can enjoy a panoramic view of the Victoria Harbour. Now, to enliven the harbour front, at the old pier, we propose an integrated retail and entertainment area to provide a diverse experience. There will be stepped building, height profile. The closer you get to the sea, the lower the buildings. On either side of the facility, there will be space for pedestrians. Before we go into the long-term works, and the site is currently subject to a short-term tenancy, we will turn the space into an open space, and our target is to open up the space in the first quarter of next year to the public. To the west of the water body, we propose a marina, a space for roughly 200 yachts. As for the specifics, that will be subject to the detailed technical assessment. Now, this is our plan for the future. Now, our fourth goal is to create a new landmark and create greater vibrancy for the waterfront area. We want to make the most of the prime site, and we want greater economic benefits from the project. So some of the area, part of it will become residential areas. There will be 1,300 private flats. To turn Hung Hom into a new landmark, we will need breakthroughs in planning and design. So we propose a 230-meter tall mixed-use block with both residential and commercial use. The rooftop will be open to the public. There will be an observation deck. There will be restaurants at the top floors. We also propose skywalk, zip lines, etc. on those levels. That's to allow people to enjoy the view of the Victoria Harbour from that vantage point. We will start a 2-month public consultation, and then we will go into the detailed consultation. Now, our goal is to try to get the work started as soon as we can. Now, I want to show a 1-minute video. It's a virtual tour. Thank you. I now open the floor for questions. Let's do 4 minutes per member. Let's stay within the 4-minute time limit for questions and answers, because we have another item lining up, and that's about funding for projects. We want to get to that item. So I expect we will overrun for this item. Let's start with Mr. Ambrose Lam. Thank you. We already have a waterfront promenade. Nearby residents and tourists visit the area. People go jogging there, and I've seen some recent enhancements. I support and welcome this proposal because we will be able to make the area even more attractive to local residents and also tourists. I heard that there will be a footbridge allowing people to access the waterfront area. But experience shows a footbridge in the urban center will be costly. So how much is that expected to cost? Do we have any backup plan if the footbridge proves too costly? What alternative do we have? Permanent Secretary. Now, on the cost for the individual components of the project, we do not have the specific figures. We'll have to wait till the detailed design before we have more specific figures. Now, on the footbridge raised by Mr. Lam, the location we have in mind is close to the east of Hung Hom Station. We do not foresee major technical challenges. We believe a footbridge will be technically feasible, but for sure there will be a detailed design as a next step, and then we will look at that in greater detail. No follow-up. We move on. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairman. There was a freight yard, and then rail freight ended. The site was left idle. We need greater vibrancy for the waterfront in Hung Hom. We need to improve the area, and this is a great concept. Now I have some suggestions to make on how we can do better. I can see much thought going into linking up the different parts. There will be links connecting the rest of Hung Hom with the waterfront and also Tsim Sha Tsui East. One thing I want to highlight is that you have Tsim Sha Tsui East and the Hung Hom Station. The links between Tsim Sha Tsui East, Hung Hom Station, and the Polytechnic University have served a real purpose. I would like to see some improvements to these existing links. The toll booths are no longer there. We will be able to use that space. But then there is also a block for managing the Cross Harbor Tunnel. Can we also cover that block in the proposal? My next point also has to do with how things work in the future. The image looks straightforward enough, but you need so many things to come together. So let's talk about the land involved. What does the land look like? Will the conditions of the site affect our future options? So who will undertake the project? Will the MTR Corporation simply perform the studies? We need some clarity. Permanent Secretary. So the first suggestion is about the link between Tsim Sha Tsui East and Hung Hom. There are challenges from our preliminary assessment. Now, on the block for managing the Cross Harbor Tunnel, whether we have some ideas about what we will do about that. That block serves a purpose. When something is wrong with the Cross Harbor Tunnel, the staff of the operator will get to the tunnel right away, so the block will have to be close to the tunnel. But we will consider whether we can have some sort of integration at the next step. Now, the third point about the land. most of the land is owned by KCRC. KCRC is wholly owned by the government. There are some issues about land to be sorted out, but we do not foresee that as a challenge. On who will take forward the project, MTLC will conduct the study. We haven't made any final decision yet. There are certain challenges with the site because of the dense rail networks, both on the ground and underground. There are merits with getting MTR Corporation to take forward the project, but we will hear from all sides in the next 2 months before arriving at the final decision.
Next, Mr. Edward Lau. Thank you, Chairman. Hung Hom is well served by public transportation as we have the East Rail Line now. Together with the harbourfront area, there is great potential to the site, so I support the proposal. We're talking about only the land use study. But still, I support the proposal. I'd like to ask about the future stages. The proposal will be taken forward in several stages. The first phase will cover the harbourfront area, and the second phase will cover the entertainment as well as commercial facilities. The government is facing tight public finances. Will the government be able to open up, for example, part of the harbourfront or the old pier site during the planning stage? Say if I want to go from Whampoa to Tsim Sha Tsui East, I'll have to go up and down the footbridge. If there is greater connectivity along the harbourfront area, it will bring greater convenience. So you may want to consider open up that part of the area first. Also, you'll have to think about how to develop the site. Are you going to adopt a land disposal approach, or will you conduct open tenders for the residential projects? I understand that the KCRC is wholly owned by the government, and that means that part of the land is fully owned by the government. I understand that there are underground railway facilities, so if priority is given to the railway company, I could understand why. But how can we ensure the greatest benefits for members of the public as well as the Hong Kong government, because we're talking about government land? Why not open up the site for, say, public auction or bidding? Will there be a mechanism, for example, so that government will be able to receive bonuses in the future? In that regard, you may want to consider open tender exercises so that you can draw profits for the government. Permanent Secretary, I thank members for the views. The first point is about whether part of the sites could be opened up for the public during the planning stage. We do have such thoughts. As you can see here, we have the former pier site, and we want to develop a low-rise integrated facility with entertainment experience. And before that, we want to carry out basic works so that it could be open for the public. This site covers an area of some 1 hectare, and we want to open up this part of the site for public by Q1 next year. And you can go from Whampoa to the site when it is opened. So there will be some works to be carried out near the harbour. And you mentioned about how we're going to implement the proposal. We want to see different elements. We want profit-making elements, and we also want public facilities that may not necessarily generate direct income. So we look at it in a holistic perspective. We may adopt the land disposal approach, but we may not necessarily put up certain land for open tender. As to which party will undertake the project, I think it's reasonable for the MTRC to implement the proposal. Even with the MTRC taking the lead, will there be open tender? Well, this has been the approach for the MTRC as it developed residential projects. All along, it has been through open tender to look for partners. We heard members' views that the government should be able to enjoy the economic benefits. This is what we will take into consideration as we take forward the proposal in the future. Mr. Kenneth Lau. With the commissioning of the East Rail Line extension section, Hung Hom has been an important interchange. Nearby, we have Tsim Sha Tsui Whampoa as well as the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. It is therefore necessary for us to open up the harbourfront area around Hung Hom Station to unleash development potential. The paper suggests that there should be a new harbourfront landmark, and it is hoped that a private organization will run the project. I support the proposal. To the northeast of Hung Hom Harbourfront, we have the Kowloon Bay Typhoon Shelter, and it is quite close to the Kai Tak Sports Park. We've had Nicholas Che as well as Coldplay holding concerts there, and we have seen a lot of people going to the sports park. Will you look at this part of Hung Hom together with To Kwa Wan as well as Kowloon Bay? So that people can get to those parts of Hong Kong directly by yachts. Will you, for example, consolidate the existing yacht berthing facilities? Permanent Secretary. If we just look at Kowloon, there are different waterfront areas and water bodies, and they each have their own characteristics, including the one in Kai Tak. Moving forward, we can think about how to improve the harbourfront area in the entire Kowloon Peninsula. We can deepen our work in this regard. How can we improve the connectivity along all these harbourfront areas? Well, take this Hung Hom proposal as an example. We want to introduce more yacht berthing facilities and also landing spaces for passengers taking ferries. At the easternmost tip, for example, we're thinking about introducing a pier so that boats can dock there. We can also perhaps provide facilities for water taxis. With these facilities, people will be able to access the different harbourfront areas in Kowloon and on Hong Kong Island. Mr. Michael Teen, 4 minutes. Last June, the National Railway Group introduced a new railway service, and the direct railway service suspended I don't know how many people will move to the mainland in the future, but I'm quite sure that there will be luxury residential apartments on this site in the future. To ensure that the railway services won't be affected, we have to get the MTRC involved. The government can invite the MTRC as an agent by paying it a service fee, and the MTRC can adopt the land disposal approach and invite different developers to undertake the project. The government does not have to fork out any money, but it can enjoy the benefits generated from the project. This is the best model. I believe you can have the most expensive residential units on this site. Don't think about developing offices there. It is great that you have shopping malls and dining facilities there. I'm imagining it as a marina bay like a Monte Carlo in southern China. In future, not just Hong Kong people, but we can have investors from Southeast Asia to invest here. With 800,000 square meters of floor area, you're going to build 1,300 flats there of 600 square feet per unit. Leighton Hill, there are a 1,900 square feet unit, which is sold at a price of some $50 million. With just 800,000 square feet, you're just going to build 1,300 units. With these luxury units, you can attract people to invest and emigrate to Hong Kong. This project will not only bring economic benefits to Hong Kong, but also bring in immigrants. This will also help consolidate the transport facilities in Hung Hom. Now, you did not mention anything about multi-story car parks. Currently, there are about 800 parking spaces with a usage rate of about 80%. With the commissioning of the East Rail Line extension section, this is the most successful example of park and ride. Many people park their cars there and change to MTR to go to Admiralty. Well, the car park was built many years ago. You have to keep the car park. Also, you have to identify other sites to build a multi-story car park because there is such a demand. Please leave enough time for Permanent Secretary to address your questions. Permanent Secretary, I heard two views from the member. Mr. Teen mentioned about the size of the residential units. We'll take note of the suggestion. I agree that there is great development potential to the site because it is close to the harbor and it faces the south. We've also considered the option of having a multi-story car park, as you said. We've seen high usage rate and park and ride has been successful in Hung Hom. As to whether there is a need to introduce more parking spaces, we will introduce another 900 car parking spaces on top of the existing 800, and 200 out of the 900 will be for residential or local residents. As for the 700 remaining spaces will be for the integrated facilities.
Ms. Chen Yutming, Hong Kong is a place of collective memories for many people in Hong Kong. It's a place well served by transport. I support this proposal to turn Hong Kong into a new landmark. Now, I have some follow-up questions. First, replanning the land use in Hong Kong, MTR Corporation will be doing the study. There are 4 areas. The land involved covers both government land and private land. Now, since we're replanning the area around Hong Kong, how much will all that cost? MTR Corporation also has many lines under its plan. So how do we ensure that the MTR Corporation has the money and the capability to cover this project too? Now, paragraph 11, will be short-term measures. We're talking about for 24 hectares, it's a large area. So will we have a priority area in the Hung Hom development, just like what you have with the northern metropolis? So do we first focus on parts offering quick returns to ensure financial sustainability? Now, I support greater vitality for the Hung Hom waterfront. On the short-term measures for the former pier, I can see the images, Plan 4 and Plan 6 on those pages show it's a great place. The former pier is some distance away from the residential site, and then there will also be event space, but you already have the Hong Kong Coliseum nearby. So the former pier can become an outdoor space. How large is that site? Will we consider reclamation to turn it into a large event space so that we have more options for outdoor events? Permanent Secretary. Thank you. So the government has in mind a large-scale land disposal approach. The government will offer the land. The land will be for the future developer to work on it to unleash the potential, so there will be no government subsidy. Now, on a phased development approach, we will take that approach. There will be two phases. Phase 1, we start with the waterfront area. The thinking is that we take the more profitable projects such as flats, infotainment facilities, and also the marina. We start with these profitable items so that we have the cash flow for the next step. On the third point, the short-term measures, the former pier. The former pier is 1.4 hectares in area. Ms. Chen asked about whether there will be a future reclamation to enlarge the area. So far, we have no plans for large-scale reclamation. That's because the pier is already 1.4 hectares. It's quite a large area. Most of the former pier will become open air space. But as you can see from the image, most facilities will be indoor because we will have the retailtainment facility. We want the former pier to be an event space, just like what you have in the Central Harbourfront event space. So in the long run, this will be an open space. Dr. Wendy Hong, thank you. Hung Hom offers excellent transport and also enjoys great view of the Victoria Harbour. It's a pity that we did not have development in the past, so I very much support this proposal. I have some points to make. First, the new landmark. The plan is to turn the area into a new landmark. I want to cite the example of Singapore. The marina of Singapore. They have the sea lion, the merlion, and they have this bridge. And they won an award for transport architecture. It's a great place for people to watch fireworks and water sports. And this is a must-visit spot in Singapore. Now we will be building a footbridge across the Hung Hom bypass. There will also be a boardwalk linking up Tsim Sha Tsui East and Hung Hom. You can turn a piece of transport infrastructure into a landmark, and that will become a new tourist attraction. There will also be a 230-meter tall tower. So we should be creating landmarks as we build structures there so that we can truly create a new scene in the area. Now, Hong Kong Coliseum opened in 1983 and it's been 42 years since it first opened. It's a key performance venue. This proposal covers 2 hotels. I believe that would support concerts. But let's look at the waterfront area. We have old hotels, and there are also waterfront surfaced apartments as well as hotels along the waterfront. Have we looked at the occupancy rate of those hotels? Do we really need new hotels? Shouldn't we be using the space for other purposes? Now, 2007, I'm looking at this planning department paper. Back then, we didn't want to affect the view of Hong Kong waterfront, so we limited the plot ratio to make sure we have enough visual penetrability and also ventilation. So will the same plot ratio restriction apply, or can we simply ditch the plot ratio limit? This time there will be some short-term measures. In 2026 to 28, the former pier will become an open space for different events. I support this. We have the central outdoor event space for many events. That space will be closed for a ventilation building, and that project will take 7 years. In Central, the space is 3.7 hectares in area. So coming back to Hong Kong, the former pier, how large is the site? Can we dovetail the closure of the Central Events Harbourfront space with the former pier? Permanent Secretary. The member gave us a few suggestions. She suggested special features in the design for the infrastructure so that the structures can become future landmarks. We will pay attention to that in our design. Now, we will be building hotels as part of the development. We looked at the hotels in the area to see if the hotels can be turned into something else for better usage of the space. We haven't finalized our plans for the hotels yet. So at the next stage, we will consider market conditions and the demand for different commercial facilities before reaching a decision. Our view is that we want to attract more tourists to the new facilities. We want tourists to spend more than just 1 day there, so there will be demand, in fact, greater demand for accommodation. At the next stage, we will consider how many hotels we will need. Now, from this image, our study covers a large area, but the building cluster will be mostly along the waterfront. And there will also be 2 medium to tall towers in the inland area. We want to make the most of the waterfront area, but we have to guard against overdevelopment along the waterfront. The member also brought up the central harbourfront event space. Indeed, there will be tunnel works for the Tung Chung line involving the site of the central harbourfront event space. But we will not be closing the central event space. We simply need the space. We simply need part of that space for the works. During the works, that event space in Central will be able to accommodate events. There will be some mild impact. Next, Mr. Benson Look. Thank you, Chairman. Accessibility matters for the waterfront. So in this proposal, I can see footbridges to divert the pedestrian flow. I believe many people will visit Tsim Sha Tsui East. You have the Tsim Sha Tsui East Waterfront Park. But that park doesn't get many visitors. The park is more of a road divider than an open space for people. More than 10 years ago, an idea was floated to turn that park into a tourist attraction. Now, the current proposal focuses on footbridges for people to go from Hung Hom to the waterfront. So can we also remodel that waterfront park to get more people to come here? Now, for the berthing spaces, there will be breakwaters. Will that involve the protection of the harbor ordinance? And when we want to have typhoon shelters, will the project be undertaken by the government or the future developer? The policy address proposes yacht tourism. We need more than just new yacht berths. We also need to relax the policies on yachts. When out-of-town yachts reach Hong Kong, the yacht owner needs to apply for licenses. I know there is one-stop application procedure, but the application is time-consuming. We need policy support to go hand in hand with infrastructure. Now, I can see not just yachts from the image, I can also see sailing boats. Sailing is getting more and more popular at the coastal cities of the mainland. So can we also have some sailing boating competitions to diversify our mega event? So at the next stage, we can explore possible renewal of the Tsim Sha Tsui East Waterfront Park. That park is quite a distance away from our current site, but we can look at that at the next stage. The member also mentioned berthing spaces for yachts. He is right. We have to look at the infrastructure and also the amended protection of the harbor ordinance. We will see what we can do so that this project can also benefit from the streamlined procedure under that ordinance. For yachts, we will need infrastructure such as breakwaters. MTRC is exploring floating breakwaters to reduce the construction costs to more reasonable levels. We will look at that. For yacht tourism, we do need policy support, and we agree with the member. Now, for the Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter, we are inviting expressions of interest. We consulted the trade on where they want to see relaxations, and we will pass on the views to the relevant policy bureaus for consideration.
Mr. Perry, we have a piece of precious land near Hung Hom Station. It is connected to the harbourfront, so it is definitely a prime location. It is favorable for us to create a new landmark there to bring in more high-spending visitors. We need to enhance the value of the harbourfront area, so I support the proposal. I have a couple of questions. In the short run, how can the government speed up improving the connectivity along the harbourfront? Also, how are you going to make use of the former pier site? We have many Victoria Harbour tours, for example, and they pick up passengers near the clock tower in Tsim Sha Tsui and near the Rosewood Hotel. It is a very crowded part of Tsim Sha Tsui. If you can link up that area and the harbourfront area, will definitely put us in a better position to develop Victoria Harbour tours in the future. Also, apart from promoting yacht tourism, we have to first think about introducing landing facilities. We need spaces to pick up and drop off passengers. We do not only need yacht berthing facilities. That's my first point. Second point, I want to offer my views on pedestrian connectivity. Tourists, especially tourists from the mainland, they come here from high-speed rail link or East Rail Link. How can you improve the connectivity between Hung Hom Station and the waterfront area so that tourists can walk from Hung Hom Station all the way to the harbourfront area and to Tsim Sha Tsui? Before you implement the long-term proposal, how can you speed up the short-term proposals, such as making use of the former pier site? I declare that I am a director of the Council of the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and the university conducted a study on how we could make use of the former toll plaza. And this is also mentioned in Dr. Simon Lee's oral question. I know you have your plans, but are there ways to further improve the walkability between Hung Hom Station and Tsim Sha Tsui East? So that visitors going to the Hong Kong Coliseum as well as the Science Museum can have alternative routes instead of relying on the existing footbridge. Permanent Secretary. On the short-term uses of the former pier site, we don't have any plans to introduce landing facilities because it takes time to build these facilities. In the long run, however, we want to introduce landing facilities as well as yacht berthing facilities for not just yachts but also water taxis in the eastern part of the site. Now, on pedestrian connectivity, how can we link up Hung Hom Station as well as the new pedestrian connections and the waterfront area as well as Tsim Sha Tsui? We will try to link up Hung Hom Station as well as the waterfront areas. We will do our best. On the study carried out by the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, we have adopted quite a number of recommendations made by the university. Moving forward, we will see how we can enhance the connectivity between Hong Kong and Tsim Sha Tsui East. Next, Mr. Gary Zhang. it is a huge development project. With all these images and plans ready, I believe the government has already made an estimate of the future footfall and the type of tours that it could bring to the area. I want to know if you can share this information with us. Now, near the former pier site, a lot of the land is owned by the KCRC, and I think it makes sense for the MTRC to take the lead in implementing this proposal. There are lots of great elements in the proposal, but I see a lack of railway components. We're talking about a new landmark, and the project will be led by the MTRC. There are used platforms, used railway tracks, and used trains. It is a great site to build a museum, to introduce the culture. Inside Hung Hom Station, there is a great exhibition. It's been very successful. Of course, it's not of a very large scale, but you may want to take the opportunity of developing the site to promote the railway culture and elements. It would be a pity if you do not do so. So please consider including these elements in your development project. Lastly, I'd like to turn to the former pier site. It is a great site for fireworks show. There are many people when there are concerts at the Hong Kong Coliseum. You may want to consider crowd management measures. It's not like ordinary shopping malls because it is a site that can attract a huge crowd, and you may want to adopt the same crowd management measures when there are fireworks show in Tsim Sha Tsui. This can help facilitate the work of station staff in the future. Permanent Secretary. Well, the member asked whether we could share our information and assumptions. We see a lot of opportunities in this site. It is at a very prime location. It is a pity that we did not make use of the site in the past. It is a site suitable for developing high-end residential apartments. By introducing tourism facilities there, we believe we can bring in high-spending visitors. That's why we propose yacht facilities there. It is close to the harbor, and we have panoramic views of the harbor on the site. The site should not just be reserved for residential projects. Therefore, we are proposing a 230-meter high tower to introduce new tourism elements such as skywalk and slides to offer a different experience for visitors. Also, the member gave a very good suggestion. I think it's great that we introduce the history of this area to people, and trains and railway are important parts of the history of the area. We will talk to the MTRC to see how we can make good use of the railway facilities to introduce the history. Also, we are aware that there will be huge crowds in the area in the future, so we want to enhance the connectivity in the area, and we will give more thoughts to managing crowds in the future. Mrs. Regina Ip. The government is going to consolidate the transport facilities as well as the land around Hung Hom Station. I, in principle, support the proposal, but I'm not entirely satisfied with the proposal because you don't have a financial plan. We don't know how you can support the project, and we don't have an assessment on the economic benefits brought by the project. You're going to have a 50-story high entertainment tower. It may not be successful. We have Sky 100 in West Kowloon. Back then, it was deemed as an iconic landmark because it offers panoramic view to visitors. But the developer has recently closed off the tower, and restaurants there have not been able to make good businesses. There have been traffic congestion issues as well. So if you copy that model, that shows a lack of creativity on your side. Permanent Secretary mentioned about picking up and dropping off passengers. Are you referring to passengers on luxury yachts? Well, we also have CIQ facilities. Well, the government has been talking about building yacht facilities recently in Lamma Island, as well as the airport authority also talked about building marina. This may not necessarily bring economic benefits. A friend showed me photos of Barcelona and Monte Carlo. Gadgets used by yachts cost money. Also, there is repair and maintenance cost. The material involved are also very costly. The super luxury yachts, they require a lot of repair and maintenance work. So you should not only focus on introducing berthing facilities. You have to take all those into consideration. Also, apart from yachts, sailboats are also important. There are sailboat competitions, and sailors may have to stay here overnight to get used to the environment. So you shouldn't just focus on building the tower. You have to consider how many berthing spaces will there be for not just yachts but also sailboats. Permanent Secretary. I thank Mrs. Yip for the suggestions. When we set the GFA for residential purposes as well as for commercial purposes, we made an assessment on the potential economic benefits, and we think it will be financially viable for us to undertake the project, even if we adopt the large-scale land disposal approach. When we carry out the detailed study, we will look into it more deeply, including the potential economic benefits, as to how we can make the project more creative. When we move on to the next stage, in refining the design, we will think about this. We have this site in a prime location and we want to make the best use of it. On marina, we understand the importance of CIQ facilities, customs, immigration, quarantine facilities. We will also think about how we can make better use of the site to introduce other types of facilities. On sailboats, we may have spaces for water-based leisure activities, not just for yachts, so we will see how we can have the best ratio.
Mrs. Regina, we won't have time for the second round. Please ask your follow-up question. Now, for yacht tourism, we will need to think about the maintenance, manpower, and also gadgets, because there are so many features with the super luxurious yachts. I am also pessimistic about malls. I go shopping all the time. Shopping malls are suffering. Now, Mrs. Ip, you do more shopping, and malls will do better. there's a structural issue at play. So can I get the Development Bureau to pay attention to this structural point so we won't have time for the second round? Mr. Frankie Yik. Thank you. Like other members, I support the concept. Mrs. Ip just said that for a marina, you will need the repair facilities, but I don't see that from the image. I don't see where we can find space to accommodate the repair facilities. Paragraph 6C of the paper says that you have the MTR building. You will be moving some facilities around. On Salisbury Road, there's a long-standing problem. At night, many coaches are parked along Salisbury Road. You don't get just double parking, you have triple parking because tourists visit the Star Avenue. So on Fridays, you see serious congestion in the area. So starting from the days of Mrs. Carrie Lam as the chief executive, we have been looking for ways for the parking of coaches. Now, since we're moving the facilities, can we have more parking spaces for coaches? That's to ease the traffic jam. It's a real problem. Along Washington Street, the space will be recovered by the government for open space, so we will end up with even fewer parking spaces, and that's a serious problem. Mr. Perry, you also raised a real problem, and that's Type 4 yachts for let. That's popular with tourists, but the landing facilities are terrible, and people have to compete for the landing facilities. People get into a row because of the shortage. So since we have the opportunity, can we have more landing facilities? There should be space. Can we have more landing steps? Can we have a larger space for people to get on and off their yacht? We want our water body to host more events, so landing is one thing to consider. Some people have told me that there are many walkways around Hung Hom Station, but those walkways are in poor condition. Some come with air conditioning, but the air conditioning is so weak that walking outdoors is cooler than the air-conned areas. And there's so much dust that gathered on the ventilation fans. You need follow-up even after you put the ventilation fans in place. So can we also fix those problems, ventilation and air conditioning? Permanent Secretary. There needs to be a repair site for yachts on land, and we will reserve such space. More parking spaces for coaches. On that, we will look into the problem when we get to the detailed design. We understand there is demand for that. On landing facilities, apart from the east, we will also think about where we can have more such landing facilities. Now, for walkways, we need not just air conditioning, but also day-to-day maintenance. We note the member's point. Mr. Chen Hock-Fong. We've been calling for a continuous waterfront promenade. We have to do more. I'm thinking about, I don't think this project fits in well with the other parts of the district. This is a prime site. We need more than just financial viability. We want benefits from the project. How much do we expect to invest? How much in returns do we expect? No such information available. Without that, it's hard to convince us to go ahead with this project. We've been calling for space on either side of the Victoria Harbour that would become nice places to be. But now this project means more towers. Can we fine-tune this proposal? Can we have lower-rise buildings instead? Can we have a waterfront that is not a place with towers everywhere? And for the flats there, those flats won't be for people who rely on public transport. You have a private flat right next to the Cross Harbour Tunnel, but bear in mind that those people will probably be driving their own cars. I appreciate the vision, it's good. But we have to think about the many details that are bound to come up when it comes to implementation. There's talk of yachts everywhere, not just in Hung Hom, but also the Lemma quarry site, and then there's another site for Tongchong, and also yachts for the expanded area of the Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter. Is there such demand for yachts? We have to be sensible. We have to bear in mind the demand and Hong Kong's plan as a whole, and also what's the niche of this proposal. You already have Central. You already have Tsim Sha Tsui. Why would people bother to visit this area? We need further details before we can get a full picture. Permanent Secretary. The member raised a point about how this project will fit in with the nearby areas. We will need good pedestrian links before this project can become a success. We have put much thought into this proposal, but sure, we can do even better, such as the linkage between Hong Kong and Tsim Sha Tsui East. We can explore that at the next stage. Now, on whether we can ditch the tall buildings and take a more lateral approach, different people take different views on this. This is a prime site right by the sea. What we have in mind is a tall block, not just for flats, but also for interesting, exciting tourist attractions on the top floors. So we need a tall building. We want to give tourists the opportunity to appreciate the Victoria Harbour on the top floors. We have arranged a preliminary transport impact assessment. We will go deeper into the assessment at the next stage to see how everything can come together. Now, on the yachts, there are 9 marinas in Hong Kong with just 2,000 berths. There are more than 10,000 pleasure vessels in Hong Kong. The shortage of berths is a long-standing problem. With Hong Kong, Aberdeen, and Lemma quarry site, we will only have 60,000, and there will be 600 extra berths at the airport. So you're only ending up with 1,200 extra berths. Mr. Ma Fong Kwok. My first concern is something raised by Mr. Chen Hockfeng. The current buildings nearby are low-rise buildings. And since we're thinking about yachts, water sports in the area, will tall blocks really fit in with the surrounding structures? But this point has been addressed by Mr. Chen, so I won't go into detail. I support the government's proposal because we have been unable to make good use of the waterfront space around Hung Hom. Now, we will still have the Hung Hom Station and the Hong Kong Coliseum. But the problem arises, and that is, what will we use the Hong Kong Coliseum for? Some of the functions currently served by the Hong Kong Coliseum will be taken over by the Kai Tak Sports Park instead. Mainland visitors used to complain about the lack of facilities around the Hong Kong Coliseum. Would the Coliseum be primarily for concerts in the future? And what about the role of Hung Hom Station as a place for freight, and how do we do better on that front? Again, Kai Tak provides dining options around the Kai Tak Sports Park. So, what would that mean for the Hong Kong Coliseum? Now I turn to the elevated and covered walkway. There will also be a link between the Tsim Sha Tsui East waterfront and the Hong Kong waterfront. When will we get to that project? All that we have now is a preliminary proposal. But what I have just mentioned, the 2 points I mentioned, are very important for people. Can we fast track the 2 projects I just mentioned? And then we get to your preliminary proposal. Permanent Secretary. So there's a concern about the height of the proposed building. We will look at that in depth at the next stage when it comes to the visual impact. Along the Kowloon Peninsula, there are taller buildings. Around K11, it's 260 meters, even taller than the proposed building. There's a residential flat nearby, 230 meters in height. So, along the coast, there are tall buildings. The member also mentioned the future of the Hong Kong Coliseum. More and more performance venues are coming on stream. In Kai Tak and also in West Kowloon, there's a review being pursued by the CSTB. And they're looking at the future positioning of the Hong Kong Coliseum. There's a role for the Hong Kong Coliseum. That Coliseum has a long history in Hong Kong's pop culture. The CSTB will look into the positioning of the Hong Kong Coliseum. Now, on dining options, we will pay attention to that. We will look at the other dining options so that we will have different restaurants complementing instead of competing or overlapping with each other. Now, the boardwalk and also the other pedestrian links, those links will be covered in phase 1 because they form a core part of the project and we will need to get to them first. Next, Dr. Ben Chen. The site is of strategic importance. This is where rail links meet. It's a convenient spot. It's accessible. I see we want to put buildings here and there in the area, but I don't see a strategic design for the entire district. Tsim Sha Tsui East is no longer as prosperous as it was. We need better linkage between Hung Hom and Tsim Sha Tsui East. And that will mean more business, more visitors for Tsim Sha Tsui East. Now, for the toll plaza, I would like the government to reconsider this, because we're only building a platform to cover part of it. We need a platform where the toll booth was, so as to better link up Hong Kong and Tsim Sha Tsui East. So this is a point for the government to consider. I would like development of the entire toll plaza. Hong Kong is different from Science Park because Science Park is in a remote location. Here, Hong Kong, you have a university nearby. We need industry clusters, not just in the northern metropolis, but also somewhere in the heart of Hong Kong. So for Hong Kong, let's make good use of the university nearby. Let's turn this place into an economic hub. Now I turn to the Hong Kong Coliseum. The Asia World Expo will also have a venue for concerts. That place will accommodate 20,000 people. In the Hong Kong Coliseum, it's for 10,000 people. Now, for Queen Elizabeth Stadium, that's only for a few thousand people. So, are we looking at having different kinds of venues for audience of different sizes, or are we going to keep the Hong Kong Coliseum? For sentimental reasons, we need a study to decide whether to keep the Hong Kong Coliseum. Now I turn to parking. The car park is old. As Mr. Michael Tin said, we need to keep that car park. Indeed, I also think we need a large car park. So do we build a new car park? Do we tear down the old car park for redevelopment? That should also be considered by the government. For me, I would like to see integration of Hong Kong and Tsim Sha Tsui East to revitalize the entire Tsim Sha Tsui East.
Permanent Secretary. The member mentioned about the former toll plaza. He asked whether we should have a platform over the toll plaza. Well, we considered the recommendation made by the Polytechnic University. If we covered the entire 3 hectares of the toll plaza, it would cost a lot and it will take us over 10 years to finish the construction. So we have adopted the good recommendations made by the Polytechnic University and included them in our proposal. Moving forward, we will look at how we can improve the connectivity between Hong Kong and Tsim Sha Tsui East. The member just now said there is a university there, the Polytechnic University, and whether there is room for us to include INT elements. Well, we have reserved spaces for commercial facilities, including office spaces, so we will see what we can do. Also, as said, the CSTB is looking at the different performance venues in Hong Kong, including the Hong Kong Coliseum. It looks like the Bureau is inclined to keep the Coliseum because of its strong connection with the pop culture in Hong Kong as well as its history. On the point about car park, we have taken note of the members' comment. We will look into that. Mr. Lewis Long. It is a harbourfront site situated at a prime location facing the south. It is a valuable resource. Just from the preliminary proposal, I support the project. A marina is proposed within the water body of the Victoria Harbour, and this is a different concept compared to that for Lemma Island. With the proposed facilities, there could be more sailing competitions in Hong Kong and the South China Sea. Since this is a preliminary proposal, I can only make a judgment based on the information available. I'm looking at this image. There is a piece of information about the construction area. Hotels and commercial facilities will account for about 56% of the total GFA. Residential projects will account for 40%, and about 4% is reserved for the marina. I believe hotels and other commercial purposes cover the iconic tower shown in the image. I'm not entirely sure about the ratio. My suggestion is that there should be more area set aside for residential purposes and less for commercial purposes. This is going to be an iconic building. It may block part of the harbor view, but I believe this can be fixed by the design. I'm actually rather concerned about the timeline. You said there will be a 2-month public consultation. That's all right. According to your timeline, you said that in the latter half of 2026, you will kickstart the statutory procedures. And before that, you will have to conduct technical feasibility studies. Is it enough for you to finish the study in 1 year for the entire site? Also, you will spend 10 years on the first phase, which will be completed by around 2036. Do you actually need 10 years for the first phase? Is there room for you to compress the timeline? There's not enough information available, so I only have the above 2 questions. Permanent Secretary. For the skyscraper, there will be residential units, and for the uppermost floors, there will be some tourism facilities. Most of the GFA will be for residential purposes. That's the first point. Second point about the timeline. We want to see whether we can further compress the timeline in the next stage. You said whether it is enough for us to spend just 1 year on the technical assessment. Well, it will involve environmental impact assessment. So we want to see whether certain steps could be done in parallel so that we can compress the timeline. Our regional goal is to commence the works in 2029, but now we're thinking whether we can push that forward. so that we can commence the works earlier than 2029. Will we need 10 years to complete the first phase? We will review whether there is room for us to compress the program in the next stage. Now it's my turn. The government is trying to make use of the land near Hung Hom Station and the waterfront area. Like other members, I support the proposal. However, we are only talking about the concepts now. We have yet to see a concrete proposal that gives us assurance. The government needs to go deeper into its proposal, and this meeting is a very good occasion for the government to take note of members' views so that it knows how it can do better. I think we should leverage market forces. How we can make good use of the plot ratio and building height. Will the tower be too tall, which may block the view? Well, I think we need to strike a balance here. We need to ensure the block has its commercial value. And I think we should maximize the plot ratio and the building height in order to do so. As for berthing places for yachts and sailboats, I've heard members' views. Members have made a very good suggestion. You have to think about what supporting measures and facilities there will be to ensure the development of the industry. You should not only offer berthing spaces, you need to offer room for the relevant activities and events. Also, another point that you have to take into consideration, not just on this site, but also for other development areas, that's parking spaces. Some may think that I overreacted. In last week's meeting of the panel on transport, the car parking spaces, the ratio is 1 to 1.4. There is a lack of parking spaces for commercial vehicles. There are usually just about 2 to 3 spaces for commercial vehicles in car parks. And for commercial vehicles, they always get penalty tickets. For working commercial vehicles, they need parking spaces. For example, we see lots of tourist coaches in Tsim Sha Tsui and Hung Hom. After they drop off the tourists, they have to park illegally in Tsim Sha Tsui. We see 2 lines of coaches on the street. Full-time drivers always have to worry about parking spaces. So this is an issue. You mentioned about transport interchange and better parking spaces. I think you should take into account commercial vehicles' needs. For example, will there be spaces for tourist coaches? This is a serious matter. You need to confront the issue. You should not only reserve spaces for offices and shopping malls. You need to address the livelihood needs of people.
Permanent Secretary. We're offering a preliminary land use proposal, so we're still talking about the concept. Much work remains ahead. much has to be finalized during the detailed design and technical assessments. And then at those stages, we will be in a better position to respond to members' questions. But I do thank members for the great ideas you have shared, and also thank members for broadly supporting our concept. And I also thank the chairman for the point about having a tall building. Indeed, we have to strike a balance. The visual impact matters. And then you also have to consider the development parameters. The project has to be commercially attractive. There will have to be a diversity of factors that we have to consider. On the berthing spaces for yachts, we should look beyond just the supply of berths. We need an entire supply chain. As Mrs. Regina Ip has said, we will take away those points and discuss them with the other bureaus. Parking spaces also matter. We will take this opportunity to look at parking spaces not just for private cars but also for commercial vehicles such as coaches. We will also look at the point about increasing parking spaces. We amended the protection of the harbor ordinance. That will make it easier for future projects at the harbor. So we have wrapped up this item. We can see from the discussion that members generally support the proposal, but we just need more details. So can the government please brief members when appropriate once the details are available? We now come to the next item. Public Works Program Item number 371WF Part Ngau May Water Treatment Works Extension Main Works Package 1 and PWP Item numbers 377WF Improvement of Water Supply to Northern New Territories. I believe members have the papers. We now invite the government officials to join us. Joining us are the Undersecretary for Development, Mr. David Lam, and his team. This item involves a funding proposal, so members please note that in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, members with any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the item will have to disclose the nature of such interest before speaking. Members who wish to speak, press the Request to Speak button now. We welcome the officials joining us. First, over to the Undersecretary to deliver the opening remarks, and then we will have slides to go with the presentation. Thank you, Chairman. And with the Northern New Metropolis, there will be more people in the area, so we will need more fresh water supply in the area to meet the demand. We have a complete plan to meet the short-term, medium-term, and long-term demand, and we will take forward the plans in an orderly way. For the medium-range plan, we're applying for funding to strengthen our water treatment and water supply systems. My colleague from the Water Supplies Department will give us more details on that. Now, for the Northern Metropolis, we have this plan for Yuen Long and Northern New Territories. So we have two items here, 371WF and 377WF. 371WF is for the Ngau May Water Treatment Works Extension Main Works Package 1, estimated cost $11.5 billion. As for number 377WF, that's for improving the water supply system to the New Territories North, estimated cost $1.07 billion. The Director of Water Supplies proposes upgrading these two projects to Category A. Now, with the expected demand for fresh water, the Water Supplies Department will give priority to upgrading existing water supply systems or deploying the capacity from nearby. And if those two options fall short, we will consider building a new water treatment work. For Yuen Long, You have Tunshui Wai, Sentin, Maipo, Ngau Ta Mei. All these areas are served by the Ngau Ta Mei water treatment works and Altao water treatment works. So far, we have the capacity to meet the demand up to 2031. As for the northern metropolis, for Kutong North and Fanling North, they are served by the Shengshui water treatment works. The fresh water will be able to meet the demand up to 2030. But then you have Hongshui-Q, Hachun, Yulong South, Sentin Technopole, and Ngau Ta Mei new development areas. These projects are being taken forward. By 2031, there will be a gap in Yunlong for water supply. That's why we propose number 371 WF to expand the capacity of the Ngau Ta Mei water treatment works from 230,000 cubic meters per day to 440,000 cubic meters per day. And then with all the new developments in new territories north, such as the Loop and various other new projects, by 2031, there will be a shortage of fresh water supply in the North District. That's why we propose number 377 WF. Every day, 300 cubic meters of fresh water will be deployed from Taipo water treatment works. That will cover the demand in the Northern District from 2031 to 36. After 2036, the WSD will see whether further expansion to capacity is needed for the Ngau Ta Mei water treatment works. If needed, we can build a new water treatment works in new territories north. Now, enclosure 1 shows that for 371, you can see the scope. Ngau Ta Mei water treatment works, Qingyao Road, Santam Road. The works will cover laying an 8-kilometer long water mains, and that will link into the villages nearby. The laying of mains will make up 15% of the project costs. On Qingyao Road, there will be a main surface reservoir of 54,000 cubic meters, and that will make up 10% of the project cost. Now we will expand the capacity of the Ngau Ta Mei water treatment works from 230 cubic meters to 440,000 cubic meters per day. There will also be spare space for future expansion of the capacity to 640 cubic meters per day. If those works are needed in the future, all that we will need is to put in extra electrical and mechanical facilities. And then around Yunlong Town Center, we will simply need a 3.2-kilometer long water main. Enclosure 2, the blue part is the proposed new facilities, and they will make up 40% of the project cost. We will also improve the facilities of the existing water treatment works. The green part is the existing water treatment facilities. The improvement will make up 10% of the project cost. We also have to supply more raw water to the water treatment facilities. In the circle, the dotted blue line, that's the outlet of the raw water main. But we don't have enough capacity for that main, so we will need extra linkage between the two raw water interchange facilities. At Lam Chun Country Park and also Kai Kong Lang, we have to link up those raw water mains. We will need access for the engineering trucks and also the power supply for the day-to-day inspection. Those facilities will cost 10%, will make up 10% of the project cost. Now, enclosure 3. This is about the raw water supply system. From January to November every year, the Ngau Ta Mei water treatment works and its ancillary facilities rely on water supply from Dongjiang River. In December, water supply is paused for repair works, and then we will rely on the Plover Cove Reservoir. The proposed linkage is in blue. You will have the chambers linking up the raw water mains. Enclosure 4. Annex 4 is the cross section. These are mains 2 meters in diameter. The connection will come with power supply, fire safety systems. No private land needs to be resumed. There will be no significant traffic impact. We also consulted the relevant rural committees. We also consulted the Town Planning and Development Committee of the Yunnan District Council. We secured the support of those committees. 371 WF. This project will be completed in 5.5 years. Project cost $11.5 billion. Now 377. Annex 2 in enclosure 1 to the paper. So the water mains will be 5.2 kilometers long, 600 to 1,000 millimeters in diameter. 1 kilometer of the main will be right across the Tolo Harbor, Shuttlecock Longyuktao section. So we will adopt trenchless excavation. The cost for laying the 5.2 kilometer main will make up half of the project cost. In Tonghang, we will also have a pumping station with a capacity of 400,000 cubic meters per day, and that will make up 30% of the project cost. At the Tai Po pumping station, we will replace E&M modules. That will make up 5% of the project cost. For this project, again, no private land needs to be resumed, and there will be no long-term or significant traffic impact. For this project, we consulted the District Facilities and Works Committee of the Tai Po and North District Council. We secured their support. For 377 WF, we expect to complete the project in 5 years. Project cost estimated to be $1.79 billion. Now I open the floor for questions. Questions and answers, 4 minutes. Mr. Michael Tin. Chairman, we will spend a huge amount of money on the northern metropolis. But the funding applications come to LegCo in drips and drabs. Separate items for studies, roadworks. There was a proposal that came in for $6.6 billion. This one is $11.5. All these projects are for the northern metropolis. I'm concerned that we are getting into a bottomless pit. How many water-related projects can we expect further down the road for the northern metropolis? I take issue with the sewer project in Lukhang, Yunlong. That project has been shelved for more than 10 years. We were promised the Hongshui-Q Hong Kong Island rail link. Again, that project has been shelved. More projects are coming on stream. So, the roundtable will not support any further northern metropolis projects until we see a clear timetable for the Hongshui-Q Hong Kong Island rail link. Now, for the Ngau Tamei water treatment works, we're upgrading an existing plant. The capacity will go up from 230 cubic meters to 440 cubic meters per day, and that will make up half the project cost, so $5.8 billion. Let's look at similar projects. Tai Po's water treatment plant. We went up in capacity from 400 cubic meters to 800 cubic meters, $6.2 billion. So you spend half of that sum on the water treatment plant, so $3.1 billion. So for this project, for every 10,000 cubic meters, you are spending $180 million. But for the type of project, the same unit cost is $80 million. So over 13 years, that cost has risen by 3.5 times. I'm looking at the civil engineering works of the CEDD. 2012, it was 562. 2025, 861. So up 50%. The index has risen by 50%, but the unit cost here is now 3.5 times as much as before. Are we still comparing things apple to apple, or have things changed? Undersecretary.
The Northern Metropolis will span 20 years. It is a huge project. There will be many different facilities in the Northern Metropolis. It's hard for us to ask for funding in one go. The water treatment works proposal will cover the needs to the medium term, and we will probably introduce a new water treatment works facility in the North District. And the cost may be different over time. So it's hard for us to come up with a figure with reference value now. For sewage facilities, they are necessary to support the Northern Metropolis. There are also facilities to facilitate urban-rural integration. We look at the REA to decide on the funding, and we ask for funding in an orderly manner. To share with you information, we, according to the paper, offer the MOD prices, and we have taken into account the inflation in the next 5 years. Take last September as a starting point. 40% goes to increasing the water treatment capacity by 210,000 cubic meters. For each cubic meter, it's about $16,000 to $17,000 for fresh water treatment. For the one in Tai Po, the works have already completed. If you look at 2024, to compare it on equal footing, it's $30,000 per cubic meter. To give you another figure, in Pui O as well as in Sha Tin, we have similar works, and it's about 16,000 to 17,000 per cubic meter as well. The design of E&M equipment may also affect the price, but this project per se, compared with the one in Tai Po, the price is similar. It is an estimated price that we provided in the paper. When we get to the Public Works Subcommittee, there will be a more concrete price, and the price would be lower than the estimate provided here. For the rural projects mentioned by Mr. Michael Tin, perhaps you can follow up with Mr. Tin after the meeting. Mr. Ambrose Lam. To support the large-scale development in the Northern Metropolis as well as to support the population in Yuen Long, we need to ensure stable freshwater supply. So I support these two projects. For the Ao Tam May water treatment works extension, I see that the water mains will be connected from Ao Tam May to Yuen Long Town Center, and the water will be conveyed to other places. As far as I understand, the underground water pipes are getting old in Yuen Long, and there are water main bursts from time to time. If more water will be conveyed from Ao Tam May to Yuen Long, I'm worried whether the water mains can support that. Will the government ask for funding to replace the water mains? Undersecretary. We're asking for funding to lay new water mains to cater to the greater water treatment capacity, but Mr. Lam made a valid point. How about the old water mains? From time to time, we adopt a risk-based approach to replace old water mains. For example, last year we asked for funding to replace water mains with greater diameters. For example, in Yuen Long, we adopt technology to detect spots with frequent water main bursts and to see whether we need to replace the water mains. We adopt the Water Intelligent Network to do so. But this time around, we're focusing on laying new water mains. Thank you. Mr. Andrew Lam. We need to take forward works to ensure basic infrastructure in the northern metropolis. However, I have my concerns. The water supply can support you up to 2031 only. It takes you 5 to 5.5 years to complete the extension works. We're now in year 2025. To put it simply, time is tight. You will adopt trenchless method. You will excavate tunnels. And there are certain risks that you will face as you carry out the works. In case anything happens, do you have any backup plans? Well, the water supply will not be able to meet the needs beyond 2031, so you'll have to ensure that there is flexibility. The two projects together will cost about $10+ billion. It's not a small sum. I see that you will adopt trenchless method. It has its merits, but it's also costly. Have you thought about alternative methods to excavation of tunnels? Undersecretary, on the point about time, we'll be able to meet the needs up to 2036 when population intake happens. The WSD is quite experienced in this regard, and 5.5 years is a reasonable timeline for them. It's not like all the residents will have moved in by 2031. From 2031 to 2036, there will also be population intake. So this is a reasonable timetable, since people will not move in one go. The supply will be able to meet the needs. We are trying to play safe. We take into consideration different factors, and we think the water supply will be able to meet the needs by 2031. On the adoption of trenchless method, we want to try to use excavation as much as possible because it's cheaper. For 8 kilometers, there will be trenchless method. In Santam Road, it is a busy road. And for areas with busy traffic, including the Castle Peak Road, we need to adopt trenchless method. Drainage reserves will be involved, and open trench will not be able to support that. As for places such as Tolo Highway and where railway services are involved, we have to adopt trenchless method. This meeting is supposed to end at 4:45, but 3 members are still waiting to speak, so we will very likely overrun. Let's schedule to end the meeting at 5. Dr. Wendy Hong. Like Mr. Michael Teen said, we have to have an overall picture in terms of the water supply. The WSD asked for $6.7 billion for the first phase of the Hong Shui Q works, and this time around, for first phase of the Outtown May works, it cost about $11 billion, and for the improvement of water supply in the new territories, it will cost another $1 billion approximately. Understand you have to make sure that you have laid the water mains before the population intake. But do you have a full picture in terms of the water supply in the northern metropolis? Do you have a concrete timetable? Can there be centralized procurement to save cost? Can there also be better division of work to ensure greater effectiveness? You don't want to save money first but end up spending more money later. Well, Dr. Hong asked about centralized procurement. On another occasion, we talked about adopting a centralized procurement method for construction materials. I think we can perhaps adopt the same model. Here you see the timetable from 2031 to 2036. What about after 2036? In Yuen Long, in the future, we will have to rely on the Outtown facilities as well as the expanded Outtown May facilities. The water treatment capacity will be increased to 440,000 cubic meters per day in Outtown May. Well, for certain works, for example, the reservoir, we believe that it can be dealt with just costing $640,000. In the northern metropolis, there is a small water treatment works in Shenzhou. For Tai Po, there are surplus treatment capacity, so we can convey water from Tai Po. The development area in the New Territories North New Town covers an area of 1,175 hectares. And the development priority development area is about 200 hectares. So we are trying to make an estimate of the water supply needed. We will provide a New Territories North water treatment works in New Territories North. Subject to development needs, we will decide whether this project will go ahead. So we have already thought about the full picture in terms of the water supply in the northern metropolis. Mr. Perry Yu. With the development of the northern metropolis, the water demand will increase. Therefore, we need the Outtown May Water Treatment Works extension project as well as the improvement of water supply to Northern New Territories. I support the 2 projects. I want to ask about the Outtown May project. The Outtown May Water Treatment Works started operation in year 2000. I heard from local residents about water leakage problems caused by underground water pipes. The northern metropolis covers Shantin, Kam Sao, Yuen Long, Tin Shui Wai, and so on. How long have the water pipes been used underground? What is the service life of these water pipes? When will you have to replace the water pipes? I know it took you a long time to carry out a large-scale water main replacement project. Now that we will face the development of the northern metropolis, I want to know about the condition of the underground water pipes. Are there water leakage problems that cannot be settled because of ownership issues in the northern metropolis? Undersecretary, there are about 8,000 kilometers of water pipes in Hong Kong. In year 2000 to year 2015, we've replaced 3,000 kilometers of the water pipes. We've been adopting the risk-based approach to decide on the priority. We have already worked on 400 kilometers of the water pipes, and last year we asked for funding to deal with 20 kilometers of water pipes with a diameter of 600 millimeters to 1.25 meters. I mentioned about the intelligent network to see whether there are any water leakage problems, and we will prioritize the water pipes with problems. We will continue to monitor whether there are any leakage problems. As to whether there have been any ownership issues involving private residential estates, well, the government has been trying to help deal with these issues because water is a valuable resource and we don't want water to go to waste. Now it's my turn. I support these two projects. Fresh water supply is necessary for members of the public, and Hong Kong has been doing well all along in this regard. Members asked about replacement of old water mains. Like Undersecretary said, in the past the government has done a lot on this front. While I support the two projects, I hope that when you get to the Public Works Subcommittee, I want you to share with members about the latest technology adopted in supplying fresh water. Water leakage causes wastage problem. We ask members of the public not to waste water, but how can we make use of technologies to plug the loopholes? I hope that when you get to the Public Works Subcommittee, you can explain to us more on this front.
We will provide the information, and I want to get back to the question from Mr. Perry Yu. A properly maintained water main can be used for 50 to 60 years, but when you have heavy vehicles moving on the ground, that will affect how long you can use the main for. So there are no further questions, so we will conclude the discussion on this item. From what I've heard, no member is against this proposal. So we will support the submission of this proposal to the Public Works Subcommittee for consideration. I did raise a point about using smart technologies to improve the service, but so please cover that in the paper to the PWSC. So, any other business? No other business. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.